Hey everyone, welcome to my fight study of UFC 305's main event, Dricus du Plessis versus Israel Adesanya. In this video, I'll share my analysis of the fight and give you my prediction and pick at the end. Some fighters are just awkward, they have strange movements, they don't have a traditional stance, their timing is unconventional, sometimes they have poor technique. I usually think of people like Keith Jardine. Now, DDP is obviously better than somebody like the Dean of Mean, Keith Jardine, but he has a style that doesn't fit into your typical genre. And at first glance, one would think that someone with the technical proficiency of Israel Adesanya would easily defeat DDP. I think in isolated situations, this is true. DDP does not have good striking defense by any means, and sometimes he doesn't react well to getting hit. Dricus' tempo is different. It isn't a constant beat, and it changes time signatures, so that on its own is difficult because you want to find openings and counter him. You want to find his timing. Dricus is also a bruiser. He throws slow and heavy, and his feet seem to move at a different tempo than his hands. There's another thing I've noticed that I haven't heard anywhere else, and that is he throws a lot of strikes. He doesn't always throw one or two strikes like most MMA fighters. He might for a while, but eventually he'll throw 3 or 4 strike combinations. This is what can catch fighters off guard because they get used to him throwing 1 or 2 haymakers, then he'll throw 3 or more, and sometimes he does that while charging forward. The opponent must always expect a couple more strikes than usual, and they'll need to find a way to evade that or to counter him because DDP leaves his chin wide open. This is the isolated scenario where Adesanya will have the opportunity to snipe DDP, but it will likely be off his back foot and he'll have to cut angles. And this is what Adesanya is good at, but it's a very risky game, and in the past against pressure fighters, he's struggled. You can look at Kelvin Gastelum, Poatan, Strickland, just to name a few. The best way to defeat Izzy, as shown in past fights, is to take away that space and mix up the game. DDP switches stances a lot, like constantly trading between the two stances. I think what he's trying to do is to box in his opponent by attacking both sides so they don't move laterally. This gives DDP the opportunity to blitz forward in a straight line with strikes or a takedown. When DDP is in southpaw, his best weapon is easily his right hand. It's usually like this step in right straight or a right jab. And also look for him when he's in southpaw to step on his opponent's lead foot if they're standing orthodox. It's kind of an old boxing technique or a tactic. What he'll do is he'll step on that lead foot and then throw strikes, and the opponent won't have the opportunity to back up as fast as they'd like. Dricus' cardio is also getting better, and the opponents he faces are rarely the ones pressing the action. DDP sometimes looks tired. He breathes heavily, but he's already slow. He's able to pace himself in a way that works for him. I really think the only way DDP can get exhausted is if he completely whiffs on all of his punches. Like, most of them actually don't land. I don't mean they hit arms or shoulders. I mean he hits only air. Or if the opponent makes him grapple. I think Adesanya needs to make him whiff, make him move, and make him pay for the shots that he misses. That will wear on DDP. I think DDP is also good at optics. Let's take his Strickland fight, for example. Although Strickland easily got the better of DDP on the feet, as you could clearly see by the end of round 3, DDP was all swollen. And although Strickland deflected or leaned away from the majority of DDP strikes, the judges sometimes have a difficult time telling the difference between strikes that actually land and ones that don't. DDP threw heavy, he threw often, and he threw with combinations. He looked to always be the aggressor, and whether he knew it or not, often timed takedowns nearing the end of the round. It's the way to win the round, especially if the round is close. A takedown can help secure it. DDP is good at this. He's good at optics, even if it looks like he's stumbling the whole way through. I think it would be smart for DDP to establish that takedown threat as early as possible in this fight because that'll only help him on the feet as the fight progresses. Make Adesanya reactive to the takedown threat. Now, the X factor in this fight is the mental. It's hard to gauge where Izzy is at. He's not enjoying the interview process, clearly tired of the same old questions. When MMA Junkie interviewed him, he seemed very uninterested. In the embedded, he asked if he was excited, and he kind of gave a non-answer. It sounds like he's hearing that he's not interested, or it seems like his mind's out of the game. So I'm hearing him also kind of adjust his answers in real time. So I don't know. It's either he is completely laser focused and is just trying to get through the annoying media gauntlet, or he's over the fight game. Defeating Poatan was really the last thing on the checklist if you think about it. Unless he's really wanting to become a 3-time middleweight champ, which I haven't heard any evidence this is a goal for him, it's probably just a nice to have. Now, Dricus, on the other hand, has complete blissful, or what Izzy calls willful ignorance, and is enjoying the process. He's a fighter on the rise. He's the new champion. He's hungry. He's eager. You can see it in the interviews. And he's enjoying that championship paycheck. I feel like DDP's head is in the game more than Izzy's. There is a world where Izzy comes into this fight and completely dismantles DDP through better footwork, angles, and picks DDP apart. I could see DDP blitzing with his chin high in the air and Izzy throwing a punch that drops him. Dricus is almost asking for it sometimes. And with that much forward momentum, it would just take one solid punch that gets DDP out of there. And Dricus can be very reactive to feints as well. And I could see Izzy making him look like a fool. That's what makes this fight difficult for me to pick. Even despite my questions of Izzy's mental this fight, I think on principle, Izzy is the right choice here. Move, counter, feint, and follow up. That is what Izzy needs to do. If Izzy's footwork and reads and feints are on point, Dricus's already sloppy entries into range will look even worse than usual. I think leg kicks will favor Izzy too, although I have noticed that Dricus will blitz when he starts to pick up on the leg kicks. I recognize that Izzy may be on the decline, and I recognize that DDP has managed to win all of his fights to become the champion. He is tough, he is strong, he has good optics in the sense that he lands the strikes he needs to when he needs to. He gets the takedown when he needs to. The outcome, in my opinion, is a decision or knockout for either fighter. DDP can somehow get a decision for all the reasons I've mentioned before. He can also catch Izzy on the chin and knock him out. Izzy can feint, read, and react perfectly to DDP's reckless style and knock him out. But I think what is more likely to happen, giving respect to DDP's toughness and also his wild card style, this will favor Adesanya via decision. It's a tough call because DDP remains an anomaly, so I'm really curious to see how this turns out, but I have to pick Izzy on principle here. But if you enjoyed this breakdown, please like, subscribe, and let me know your thoughts on the fight down below. I really appreciate you watching. Enjoy the fights.